rude Karens who got owned and humiliated.
A Georgia woman is literally carried out of a county board meeting by police after she refuses to leave the podium.
20-year-old Samantha Alonzo Luna and her friends were pulled over by cops near Humboldt State University in Northern California. She won't let go, so the cop tells the other officers.
Public meltdowns are on the rise, and no one represents them more than the infamous Karens, entitled, loud, and always ready to cause a scene. But sometimes their outrageous behavior meets its match, leading to moments of pure poetic justice. What happens when a Karen's tantrum backfires in the most humiliating way? Drunk driving gone wrong. Let me tell you about this one woman who thought she could argue her way out of trouble. It all started when she got pulled over for driving under the influence. Now, back in my day, if a police officer pulled you over, you'd say, "Yes, sir," or "No, ma'am," and follow their instructions. But this lady, oh no, she decided she was above all that. She was completely belligerent from the start. The officers politely asked her a few simple questions, like her name and whether she had been drinking, and she flat out refused to cooperate. Instead of answering, she kept arguing, demanding to know why she was being stopped. "Why are you pulling me over? I didn't do anything wrong," she kept saying, her voice dripping with indignation. The officers gave her 3 chances to calm down and cooperate, but she wouldn't have it. She even ignored them when they asked for her number, pretending like she had all the time in the world. Now, these officers weren't trying to be the bad guys. They gave her every opportunity to do the right thing. But when she continued to argue and refused to answer their questions, they had no choice. They warned her repeatedly, but when she still didn't comply, they pepper sprayed her. That finally got her to stop her nonsense, and they arrested her on the spot. You know, back when I was growing up, this kind of thing was unheard of. If the police asked you to step out of the car or answer a question, you did it. You didn't argue, and you certainly didn't get yourself arrested over sheer stubbornness. People used to have a little respect for authority. Now, it seems like folks think they can argue their way out of any situation. But as this woman learned the hard way, there are consequences to acting like that. Sometimes you've just got to take a deep breath, show a little humility, and avoid making things worse for yourself. The county meeting meltdown.
Body camera video captures the officers approach Maggioroni and ask her to leave. She then yells to the crowd, asking for people to record the altercation.
It happened at a county board meeting in Georgia, where folks were supposed to be discussing community issues. Now, I've attended my fair share of town hall meetings over the years. People might get a little heated, sure, but there was always an understanding that you let others have their say. Not anymore, it seems.
When officers get closer, Maggioroni anchors herself at the podium, sitting down.
I'm not standing up.
I just want to help. Like, I don't know.
This woman, Beth Maggioroni, decided that the rules didn't apply to her. She marched up to the podium and just wouldn't stop talking, even when the board asked her to wrap it up. The meeting organizers gave her multiple chances to sit down and let the meeting move on, but she refused. Instead, she yelled at the crowd, asking them to record the whole spectacle. "Does everybody have this on film?" she shouted, like she was some kind of martyr for free speech.
You hurt me! You hurt me! Leave me alone! Leave me alone!
Okay, go ahead.
Leave me alone!
When the police officers showed up, you'd think she'd finally realize it was time to leave, right? Nope. She dug in her heels, literally. She sat down at the podium and anchored herself there like a stubborn toddler, refusing to leave the playground. The officers tried to reason with her, but she wouldn't budge. Eventually, they had no choice but to physically lift her out of the meeting and carry her outside.
I need my stuff.
All right, wait right here. I'll grab your cell phone for you.
And would you believe it? Even after they escorted her out, she tried to come back in 3 more times. Each time, the officers had to stop her at the door. Talk about determination in all the wrong ways.
Chatham County Police Department says the county board's president called for Maggioroni to be removed from the meeting. It was only then that officers approached her and carried her out.
You know, it's hard not to shake your head at behavior like that. Back in the day, people handled disagreements with dignity. If you didn't like how a meeting was run, you voiced your concerns respectfully and then let it go. You didn't throw a tantrum in front of the whole room, making everyone uncomfortable. It's one thing to stand up for your beliefs, but there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. Beth Maggioroni? She chose the wrong way, and it ended with her being carried out like a sack of potatoes. What a sight that must have been, dragged out by the hair.
I'm sorry that anyone
You're the
heard
one
you.
that's being rude.
How am I being rude?
Seriously? You're about 2 seconds from going to jail for public intoxication. Do you not understand that?
Now, this one really takes the cake. Samantha Alonzo Luna, just 20 years old, found herself in a heap of trouble during a traffic stop in California. Let me tell you, I've seen some heated exchanges in my day, but this one went from zero to chaos faster than you can say bad decisions.
So I would stop talking if I were you.
But Luna continues to argue with the cop.
When I asked your last name, then you should have told
That
me.
is my last name. Samantha Luna is my last name.
Luna.
It all started when the cops pulled over Luna and her friends near Humboldt State University. They'd been acting up. One of her friends even stuck their head out of the sunroof while driving. Not exactly subtle, right? The police did their job and arrested one of the passengers for that stunt. But Luna, oh boy, she just couldn't keep quiet. She was furious, hurling insults at the officers and making the whole situation worse.
What's on your license?
Alonzo Luna.
Then that's
My
what you
last
should
name
have
is
told
Luna.
me.
The cop has had enough.
Get out of the
Are you
car.
happy? No, I'm not
You're
getting
going
out of
to
the
jail.
car.
Now, here's where things took a turn. Luna started arguing with one of the officers, and when they warned her to stop, she grabbed the officer by the hair. Can you imagine? The cops had no choice but to take action. They warned her to let go, but when she wouldn't, one of them even suggested cutting her hair to get her to release her grip. It was like something out of a bad sitcom.
You are going? What the? Try and get it on video. Try and get it on video.
She grabs the cop by her hair.
Let go of my hair. Stop hitting her. Let go of my hair. Let go.
In the end, she was charged with public intoxication and battery on an officer. And get this, her mugshot showed her smiling, as if she was proud of her antics. I mean, come on, when did we start celebrating bad behavior? Back in my day, if you got arrested, you kept your head down and tried to make it right.
She won't let go, so the cop tells the other officers to get some scissors and cut her hair. We asked security expert Steve Cardian to analyze the video.
You know, it's one thing to have a bad day or make a mistake, but grabbing a cop by the hair? That's not just foolish, it's downright dangerous. It's like people think they're invincible these days. But as Luna learned, actions have consequences. Hopefully, she uses this as a wake-up call to get her act together. A 9-year-old's tantrum and handcuffs.
Here on Officer Yashira Moncada's body cam, you can see the child throwing paper and books that have been scattered across the floor as staff members attempt to calm the child down.
This one is about a 9-year-old boy who had a full-blown meltdown at his school in Florida. When I say meltdown, I'm not talking about a little tantrum. This kid was throwing books and papers, kicking his teacher, and screaming at the top of his lungs. It was chaos.
I get that a lot. It doesn't hurt my feelings.
Staff members hold a blue punching bag as the student continues to lash out, this time by kicking the teacher. Next, Officer Scott Mosley responds to the classroom.
Back in the day, situations like this were handled by teachers, or maybe the principal. But now, schools call the police. That's exactly what happened here. 2 officers showed up to try and calm the boy down. They spoke to him gently, trying to de-escalate things, but he wasn't having it. He kicked one of the officers and kept lashing out at everyone around him.
So you come down. This is where we're at. He can do that because he's on the road. Just calm me down for a second.
On Officer Mosley's body cam, you can see the child repeatedly kick the officers while they attempt to restrain him. Once in cuffs, the student continues to scream profanities.
Eventually, the officers decided to handcuff him, not as a punishment, but to keep him from hurting himself or anyone else. The handcuffs were loose enough not to hurt him, but you can imagine how upsetting it must have been for everyone involved. They talked to the boy the whole time, trying to calm him down and explain why his behavior was a problem.
Chill. Just relax.
need to chill.
Throwing stuff, we can take the handcuffs.
After a few minutes, the boy finally started to settle down. The officers removed the cuffs, and he was taken to the guidance counselor's office. But the story didn't end there. His parents were outraged and filed a lawsuit against the police, claiming the handcuffing caused emotional harm and made his behavioral issues worse.
Ow!
Stop pulling.
Stop!
Stop pulling.
Ow!
Stop kicking at my hand.
Just relax. No, hold me! You relax, we can talk to you and you can talk up. That's why you're not going anywhere.
You know, I get why his parents were upset. Nobody wants to see their child in handcuffs. But at the same time, what choice did the officers have? The boy was a danger to himself and everyone around him. Back when I was a kid, if you acted out like that, you'd get a stern talking to from your teacher, and your parents would back them up. These days, it feels like teachers don't have the authority to discipline kids, and the police are left to clean up the mess. A plane, full of delays.
How y'all gonna inconvenience me? I get on the plane and y'all tell me I gotta get off? No, today I'm not. And I'll make sure it's recorded.
She's gone live on Facebook to let everyone know what's going down.
You won't believe it. She got on the plane without even having a ticket. Now, I don't know how something like that happens in the first place. Back in my day, you couldn't even think about getting on a flight without every piece of paper in order. But this lady, she waltzed right in like she owned the place.
What is up is I'm sitting on this airline and she's telling me I gotta get off the plane. I'm trying to go to Las Vegas.
She got on the wrong plane without a ticket, and now she won't get off.
When the flight crew realized what was going on, they politely asked her to get off the plane. You'd think she'd feel embarrassed and quietly leave, right? Oh no, not this one. She flat out refused to budge. Instead, she whipped out her phone and started live streaming the whole thing on Facebook, ranting about how she wasn't going anywhere. Her voice carried through the entire cabin as she argued with the flight attendants, the passengers, and even the police who eventually showed up.
Huh? Yeah.
Come talk to me up here, man.
Who?
Come talk to me up here.
You mean I gotta take my seatbelt off?
Yes, you do.
You can talk to me right here.
No, I don't want everybody to hear what I gotta say to you.
Well, I'm gonna make sure everybody hear what Spirit got to
You
say.
can record it, but come on up here.
I'm not getting off this plane.
It doesn't work, and she continues her tirade.
Y'all see this? I'm letting my armrest down because I'm not getting off this plane to negotiate with no terrorists.
The trespassing passengers rant causes the airline to pull everyone off the plane.
The situation got so out of hand that the airline had to deplane everyone. Can you imagine? Dozens of people, mothers with babies, elderly passengers, business travelers, all had to get off the plane because of her. And while everyone else was inconvenienced, this woman just sat there, still refusing to leave.
Gentlemen, I do apologize. You can leave your belongings on the aircraft, but we are going to have to deplane.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
Once again, we do need your boarding passes with you. Just get everybody back on and make sure you're all here. We do apologize for this inconvenience.
Y'all better all get out because I'm not, if I can't go to Las Vegas, Nevada, neither can y'all. You're going to hell. Go, that's hell that way, hell that way.
Offending fellow travelers isn't enough.
Eventually, the police had no choice but to arrest her, and thank goodness for that. I mean, who does she think she is, holding up a whole flight like that? To make matters worse, she acted like she was the victim the entire time. The kicker, she even tried to justify her actions later, saying she was just standing up for herself.
So, what I need you to do...
Yeah.
Get up off the plane.
Yeah, I sure will, Mr. Officer.
Get your stuff.
I got my stuff. You got your stuff, Mr. Sergeant Baker? Yeah,
Go ahead,
ma'am.
put your phone in your pocket.
No, I'm not doing that one.
Ma'am.
I'm not putting it in there. It's recorded.
Ma'am.
Go ahead.
Until the cuffs come out and she's arrested. She didn't go to Vegas, but she did go to jail.
Let me tell you, if I ever pulled a stunt like that, my family wouldn't let me live it down. You inconvenience an entire plane of people and you think you're in the right? I'd have been mortified. Nowadays, it feels like some folks just don't understand the concept of common courtesy. It's one thing to make a mistake, but to dig in your heels and disrupt everyone's day, that's just plain selfish. Flight freakout.
You may not have a job tomorrow. I want this lady. No, I can't.
Now, this next one involves a woman named Susan Perez, and let me tell you, she managed to turn a simple flight into a full-blown spectacle. It all started on a Delta flight from JFK to Syracuse, New York. Susan was seated next to a young mother and her 8-month-old baby, and apparently that didn't sit well with her.
wants to be ever cry.
He's not going to cry the whole time.
Put you on the next flight. What's your name?
Tabitha 97667.
Thank you, Tabitha. You may not have a job tomorrow.
I want this lady.
Perez instantly backed off.
Instead of politely asking to change seats, Susan started cursing up a storm. The mother, trying to keep things civil, asked her to watch her language around the baby. But Susan wasn't having it. She snapped back, told the mom to shut up, and things escalated from there.
I can't, Tabitha. I have to. I apologize. Please, no. I apologize. All right. I apologize. I have to be on this flight.
The flight crew eventually stepped in, and this is where it gets interesting. One of the flight attendants, a no-nonsense woman named Tabitha, calmly but firmly told Susan to knock it off. And you know what? That sharp comment seemed to snap Susan out of her tirade. She actually apologized, though I have to say, it felt more like she was trying to save face than genuinely feeling sorry.
Kind of made me laugh when she started to apologize, because you don't just go from being a psycho to apologizing and acting like she did nothing wrong.
But the damage was already done. Word got out about her behavior, and it turns out Susan worked for the New York State Council on the Arts. When her employer caught wind of the incident, they suspended her while conducting an investigation. They even removed her name and photo from their website. Talk about consequences catching up with you. Airport meltdown.
The meltdown comes as airports across the USA are dealing with the government shutdown. Here's Jim Murray.
Take Sabrina Thomas, for example. This woman made quite the spectacle at Fort Lauderdale Airport, and not in a good way. She was all set to catch her flight when the airline staff noticed she'd had a bit too much to drink. Now, I don't know about you, but I was always taught that drinking and flying don't mix. But Sabrina, she didn't seem to get the memo.
But says the wait times at airport security checkpoints remains well within federal standards.
When they told her she couldn't board the plane, she completely lost it. Screaming accusations, leaning over the counter, and yelling at the staff. It was like a scene straight out of a soap opera. "You rapist!" she shouted at one poor JetBlue employee, as if that made any sense. The whole terminal was stunned, passengers just sitting there watching the meltdown unfold. Then, as if nothing had happened, Sabrina grabbed her things and stormed off, probably thinking she'd made her point. But of course, that wasn't the end of it. Authorities quickly stepped in, putting her in handcuffs and escorting her out of the terminal. She didn't get to fly that day, but she did get a trip to the hospital for observation. Now, I'm all for people letting loose every once in a while, but there's a time and a place. An airport surrounded by hundreds of other travelers is neither. The thing is, when you're drunk and belligerent like that, you're not just embarrassing yourself, you're making everyone around you uncomfortable. Back in my day, folks had a little more self-control. If you were upset, you'd handle it calmly, or, at the very least, step aside to cool down. But Sabrina? She thought throwing a public tantrum was the way to go. Drinking and flying? When did that become a good idea? People today just don't know when to quit. The ultimate airline Karen.
No words. No words. Free speech is dead. Okay, excuse me. Didn't do anything.
You're definitely coming off.
No, we're not coming off.
You are.
Then you're going to have to take everyone off.
Imagine sitting on a plane ready for takeoff when a fellow passenger decides the rules don't apply to them. That's exactly what happened when an unruly woman decided to ignore airline pet policies and caused a scene on board.
This is ridiculous. You guys see what's happening in America? You guys, we're going to turn into China. It's coming. Sheep, sheep, sheep. The president or the mass people didn't like what I said. Oh, I love Elon Musk. He is the best. I am suing you. What is your name, sir? I'm suing you. I'm not getting that vaccine.
It all started when this passenger refused to follow the rules about keeping her dog in its carrier. The flight crew politely reminded her about the policy, but instead of complying, she snapped back at them, acting as though she was being personally attacked. Then she turned her frustration on the other passengers, throwing insults left and right. One poor guy caught her wrath just for looking in her direction. "What are you staring at? You get paid by the hour," she shouted. It was like watching a grown-up toddler throw a tantrum. When the crew tried to calm her down, things got even worse. She started arguing, yelling, and refusing to follow any instructions. Eventually, the situation got so out of hand that the police were called. They had to physically escort her off the plane, kicking and screaming the whole way. Can you imagine? A grown woman being dragged out like that in front of everyone? The fallout didn't end there. She was placed on the airline's no-fly list, effectively banning her from flying with them again. And honestly, I don't blame them. Airlines have enough to deal with without adding unruly passengers to the mix. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.